stories. And first off, the NATO Anniversary Summit is in full swing as we speak in Strasbourg. In a show of unity before the session, NATO leaders walked across a bridge spanning the River Rhine and separating Germany and France. They met the French president at the halfway point, symbolising France's full reintegration into the alliance. But will the summit bridge the divide over Afghanistan? Let's talk more about that now. In the studio, our political commentator Peter Laval, also Evgeny Khrushchev, our military analyst. Good to see you both here. Well, we're hearing, aren't we, that you know, France and the German leaders and most of the rest of NATO have endorsed Obama's plan for Afghanistan, but they don't want to send troops. So how can he really push this forward? Evgeny, you first.
Well, I think it's a purely a protocol measure, but it boils down to Afghanistan that it's going to be, from now on, it increasingly becomes a U.S. war effort. And that's exactly the reason that the United States have to come up with, for the Afghan surge with the same amount of extra troops that will compensate compensate the European NATO members' troop presence in Afghanistan, because they're totally incapable to come up on combat terms with the U.S. forces.
Peter, was President Obama resigned to this, or was he expecting more from NATO?
He was fully expecting it, and nobody wanted to raise their hand and say they're going to offer more troops. The British will do a little bit more when it comes to training. The French said they will train police officers there. But this is a clear defeat for NATO as an alliance, a clear defeat. An alliance that doesn't want to fight. It embraces the ideas of the United States, but it won't back it up. It's like the saying, you know, we're all for you, America, we're right behind you. And that's right, right behind. They're not committed to fighting this war. And this is a very problematic thing. And it really puts to the test the meaning of NATO. NATO was to face off against the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union is gone. And then today, Kevin, today, we have Croatia and Albania joining the alliance. What in the world are they going to be contributing to the alliance? How are they going to fight terrorism in the greater Middle East?
So what are you saying, that the organisation is out of date, full stop, or what should it become then?
Well, that's the debate. You know, should it be self-defense for only its members, or you go global? And a lot of the older members want to say this is for Europe itself. But there's a cost to that. If they go that route, the United States will say, we don't need you, because we don't need you now.
Yeah. Do you think Peter's got a point there, Evgeny?
Well, yes, to a certain extent, but because I believe that the United States could give a historic opportunity, President Obama, to European members to realize, guys, you're already grown up. So now you can take care of your own security responsibility. After 60 years, how they can resolve Afghanistan to make it self-sufficient in defense if after 60 years they can rely upon Europeans themselves? So I believe that it's a perfect opportunity for the United States to say, guys, to Europeans, now you can take care of yourself, you are grown up, we have other things we have a bigger fish to fry in Afghanistan and Pakistan. Thank you very much. As of now, we will be partners, not the members of outdated Cold War club.
Afghanistan really is the big test for NATO at the moment, isn't it?
Well, Afghanistan is big, but it's not the biggest. The biggest is Pakistan. For Pakistan, none of European NATO allies have any clue about what to do next. And even if Americans are vacillating about crossing the Afghan-Pakistani border and to convert the covert operation into open, overt military presence, for NATO allies, that will be the death knell, that will be the end of the game if they will be called upon by the United States to join the fray in Pakistan. And it's only a question of time when this decision will come on agenda.
In many ways, Evgeny is right. In many ways, this is a make-or-break operation for NATO. If they can't really come and raise their hands and send their troops and really be truly committed to it, the alliance will have to be seriously rethought out. And it's in the cards. And I think really in the back of the mind of a lot of policymakers in the United States saying, look, we're paying for their defense. Why should we have other things on our agenda?
And what's Russia's role here? Where does Russia want to be seen? How does it get on with NATO? Where would it like to be?
Well, Russia's been asking to be treated like an equal for the longest time. I've sat in this chair and said it so many times. But there's a nice saying that we heard, Russia needs NATO and NATO needs Russia. Well, Russia doesn't need NATO at all. on the face of it, not at all. NATO desperately needs Russia, and I hopefully we'll see a change in attitude here. But we have historical
I sort of pick you up on that. You say NATO desperately needs Russia. Do they firmly believe that? Is that the thought that is going through the top brass in NATO's mind?
What is in someone's head and what's in your heart are two different things here. Okay, logically speaking, obviously they need Russia to get to supply for the operation in Afghanistan, if the litmus test again. But there's just too many squabbles within the alliance to be able to embrace Russia. They're continuing to say, to invoke Article 5 of the Washington Treaty for self-protection. The Poles, the Baltic republics, and everyone else is talking about, well, if it's a cyber attack that's against our country, it's an attack against us all. I mean, the whole very definition of self-defense is falling apart in the post-Cold War era.
The last 30 seconds to Evgeny. We're 60 years in now to NATO. Everyone's got the different view on how effective it's been. Do you think it'll be around in its current form in the next 10 years?
No way. It will melt down into political club of weekend warriors at best. Or otherwise, it have two options. Either NATO will rebrand Taliban and Al-Qaeda, or it has to rebrand itself and melt into another quasi-European entity, sort of, which will remain a partnership, relationship with both the United States and Russia.
At the end of the day, it'll be Russia and the United States that will determine if NATO exists in 10 years' time.
The last word to you then, Peter Lavelle. Thank you for that. Gentlemen, I'm afraid we're out of time. Evgeny Khrushchev, Peter Lavelle, thanks ever so much for being in the studio today. Always good to hear you. Now, meantime, more than 1,000 protesters have been demonstrating on the streets of Strasbourg outside that meeting, surrounded by tight security and edging closer to the summit venue. Riot police are keeping them back with tear gas, rubber bullets and barricades. Some of the anti-NATO demonstrators hurled petrol bombs, rocks and bottles. Now, hundreds have already been arrested following the 2 days of the anniversary of protests in the French city. Police are expecting more people to come out on the streets before the summit ends later on Saturday.